The sponsor of today's podcast is Vanguard Safety Wear, made for work. Check them out on the web at vanguardsafetyware.com. Now, let's roll that federal cue. Roll it! You're listening to Views from the Jumpseat Podcast. Bunker up. Buckle in. It's time for the show to begin. One thing remains constant in the fire service is that we start day one in the jump seat. So if you're a chief officer, welcome back. If you're the day one probationary, welcome aboard. It's time for Jumpseat Radio. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Jumpseat Radio, the podcast that brings you views and opinions of the backwards riding, street level, where have you been, Ryan podcast. It seems like, man, have you even put out a podcast this year? Yeah, 2020 is dead set on top of us, and it has been just the weirdest, freakiest, I don't know, just different type of year that we've ever had. And Jumpseat Radio has gone missing for a couple months, and there's a reason for it. But I'd like to welcome you guys back. If you clicked on the title of today's podcast was completely clickbait. We are not shutting down the podcast. It was just shut down for a temporary amount of time, and there's a reason for that. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. But first and foremost, if you haven't noticed or not, but in the entry roll today, we have a new podcast sponsor. Well, it's kind of an old one, but a new one, but an old one, but a new one. We'd like to give a huge shout out to Dingus Fire Company for sponsoring us for those for the last year or so. But they have stepped aside and welcomed in one of their suppliers, the makers of the Vanguard Safety Wear MK1 structural firefighting gloves. So Dingus is stepping aside for a little while, and we're stepping up the Vanguard Safety Wear as the official sponsor of Jumpseat Radio Podcast. So check them out at Vanguard Safety Wear. This is a company that's near and dear to my heart because I was one of the ones that started it. The reason we're stepping up the sponsorship of Vanguard is we've got a new glove that has just hit the streets. The Vanguard Safety Wear Ultra, MK Ultra. It's made with kangaroo skin palms, and man, they are straight butter. Check them out at vanguardsafetyware.com. Now, we've paid the bills. Thank you, Vanguard Safety Wear, for keeping this content coming through your ear holes for free. And man, it feels good to be back on the microphone. Ryan, where have you been? Well, let's reverse in time here a little bit, and let's back this truck up to when COVID very first started. We were down in Baton Rouge at the Lift conference, which blew me away with the hospitality of the Louisiana Fire Service, the level of instruction, the level of students. But man, you want to talk about freakiness, trying to get home, and is the flight's going to be canceled, and it's 13 hours and one-way rentals and getting home to your families. And back then, we really just didn't know what was going on with COVID. So we got home from the Lift conference, and that's when the cancellations started. FDIC got canceled. Topeka, Kansas got canceled. Just the amount of cancellations of traveling to meet firefighters and spread the message of hoarding and aggressively positive started falling in line. Canceled. Well, that's when it kind of dawned on me that it's time to take my focus from the national level and bring it back to the local level. And people always ask me, Ryan, how do you keep all those balls in the air juggling between being a national speaker, being a podcast host, but then you got to go to your fire station? And are you really being all present when you go to the fire station? Are you really being all in while you're there? Man, it took a lot of self-reflection with that. So this was the perfect time to do that. And as I'm juggling around these multiple balls of being dad, being pappy, which I'll give you an update on that a little bit later. But all these balls I keep juggling for so many years, I took one of those balls, or maybe two of those balls, no pun intended, and made my juggling efforts down to just a couple focuses. Number one, I focused back on being a father and being a grandpappy. That's what she calls me, some pappy. Is I took that time to step away, put down the telephone, not be active on social media, not interact with my national family, and interact with my real family. And I must say, you can ask Heather next time. Maybe we'll get her on the podcast. One of these days I'll get her on the microphone. That she really has enjoyed me being home and being completely present. And I guess I really didn't realized how much a lot of times I was not present because I had my cell phone in my hand, or I was talking to some people from around the world, or scheduling classes, or I was coming in from airports, or I was going out on airports. And it was just a great time to focus in on taking care of my family. Secondly, I needed to take my time and focus it in on my new position, and that is an engine captain. Ooh, that's going to sting some ears. Yeah, that's right. I'm not on Caitlin, the confused ladder anymore. My short stint on the truck company is gone, and now I'm back to being a real firefighter, and that's back on the engine. And I must say that learning the engine has been fantastic. Learning about stretches, stretching short, stretching long, when to stretch big, when to stretch small, stretch. It's been just about the biggest and best honor of my life is being the leader. It just so happens they're all men, the leader of men in an engine company, and it's been fantastic. We spent a lot of time learning layouts, learning hose layouts, practicing layouts. We did the crawl, walk, run. We're still getting it, but it's made me super excited and super happy to be the leader of these young men. Just so happens they're all young men right now, and I could not be more proud to say that I am the captain of Engine 457 C Shift. We've got a great core group, great personalities. Sometimes we fight just like dads, and they call me the station dad. But growing together as a team over this last couple months has been awesome. We had a couple guys off for COVID exposures, and now that they've come back, I even told them, I was like, wow, I've kind of missed you guys. And actually, I had one of the firefighters come up and say, Ryan, this is the first time I've ever been assigned to a house where it feels like a family. And man, that just means the world to me. So this COVID cancellations has made us really take a time to step back and put 100% focus in on the firehouse. Now, when you're saying, Ryan, is that fair that you haven't been 100%? It's not that I haven't been 100% focused, but I haven't been 100% focused. And I could distinctly remember a conversation with Kurt Isaacson from down in Escambia County, Florida at the Missouri Winter Fire School. And he says, Ryan, when I'm in the firehouse, I'm all present. My phone gets set aside. I am completely there to be in the moment with my guys and gals. When I'm the chief, I'm the chief. I'm not the dad. I'm all present with the Escambia. And I guess I heard it, but I didn't listen. Or if I listened, but I didn't hear it. And this is something moving forward that when I'm at work, I'm going to be 100% at work. Sorry, folks, I won't answer your text messages or I won't see you. And it's something that I guess it really, COVID smacked me on the face and said, hey, Ryan, this is something you need to focus in on. So when you're in the fire station, put your phone down, focus on the guys and gals in front of you, on the mission, on the station, and just enjoy it. Man, I tell you, that's one of the biggest takeaways, again, from being this engine company captain is my wife is like, Ryan, man, it's like, you've got your drive back. She's like, you're just waiting to go to work. You're at work an hour early. You stay an hour long. You're talking to the guys about getting the station fixed up. You're talking about layouts. You're talking about the engines. She's like, I'm finally glad to see the spring back in your step. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Because the COVID cancellations, missing FDIC, man, that was a huge blow to me. I'm sure it was a huge blow to a lot of folks. That's where I get a lot of my motivation from, talking with different firefighters, seeing their passions, feeling the brotherhood and sisterhood as we go around. So it's been a great opportunity to really focus in on Station 7 C Shift. And, man, my guys are doing great. Just fixing up the station, working on the engine, and that's it. One of the biggest reasons why Jumpseat Radio went away for a while is the Charleston, West Virginia Fire Department suffered a line of duty death of a firefighter. It's not something I'm ready to talk about right now, but what a lot of you folks don't realize, or I've never shared on a public forum, is when it happened, I was in the station that night, and I was the paramedic. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully next episode or episode extra after next, we're going to invite in a guest host. My best friend in this world, Peter Matthews from Firehouse Magazine, is going to come on and do a takeover of Jumpseat Radio, and he's going to do an interview with me so we can share the experience of going through a line of duty death, burial, family interactions, recovery, mental health of it, and reliving the experience and honoring firefighter Jason Cuffey the best way we know how. So I'm going to leave that there. My good buddy Pete's going to come on the radio, and we're going to talk about that. And as I share that experience, the good, the bad, and the horrible, because it was absolutely horrible. And that's it. So, all right. So why is it there you go, freaking loaded up on fire department coffee and cranking the microphone today. So now you've heard me ramble for about 10 minutes where Ryan's been. No, the Jumpseat Radio is not being shut down. It was just a temporary fix for a couple issues. So now I want to give you some takeaways today on Jumpseat Radio. Heck, I don't even know what podcast number we on. Let me look up what podcast number we on. But I want to share why is now the best time for you. So this is going to be Jumpseat Radio 126. So why is it the right time to shift your focus back to your responsibilities? So Jumpseat Radio 126 is why is now, right now, this moment. So if you're on that treadmill, reach down, crank it up. If you're getting ready to go on the drill field, get them gloves on and let's go. But why is right now the best time to focus in on your responsibilities? Well, I don't know where this quote came from, but when they're talking about trash in the ocean, they say, think globally, but act locally. Man, that really kind of hammers home. Think globally, act locally. So what I take that away and apply that to the fire service is we're thinking globally about the mission of our fire department, but we need to act locally and take personal responsibility for our knowledge, skills, and abilities. And really, now with COVID being upon us, it's the best time to focus in on your house, your station, your crew, your engine, truck, rescue, ladder. Whatever you're riding on, it's time to take some local action. Where does that local action stops? Or where does it start? It starts by you putting down your telephone. Hey, Pot. Yes. How are you? Hey, Kettle. It's almost like I told the guys the other day, we're going to have no phone Fridays. On Fridays, we're not picking up our cell phones. And I'm telling you what, it's almost like cutting the umbilical cord of a baby, myself included, because we've become so attached to our telephones that it's time to put the phone down and trying to find something to work on that day. Narrow down that global focus of here's what's wrong. This is what's wrong. Okay, this is something that I can fix, that Ryan can fix, that Jane or Jack or whomever you're listening to this podcast right now, this is something we can fix. It could be something that needs fixed on the engine. It could be something that needs cleaned. It's something that you can fix in your local area. Is it your PPE being ready to go? Is it your fitness? Well, we'll talk about that one on a later day. But in your local area, what can you control to help the global mission, but act on the local level? Number one, I'm not throwing no more numbers up there. First one I was thinking about is learn a new skill. Find something that you don't know something about. Me, it's understanding the engine company operations. My new skills was stretch estimation. That's something I've been working on. It's great to have a bow hunter in your firehouse. Well, Ryan, that's 76 yards and the wind's downwind from the southeast. That's 76 yards right there. But that's something that I've been working on for me at the local level is find a new skill, whether that's a skill stretching, forcing a door, using a forcible entry tool, whether that's rope rescue or swiftwater rescue. Find a new skill that you've never learned or that you've always wanted to know during COVID and search it out. Don't wait for your department to find it. Get on the YouTubes. Shameless plug, youtube.com/Ryan Pennington. We're starting to add some more content there. But hop on the YouTubes and find a new skill and then go out and practice it. Listen, COVID, we're not supposed to be around a whole lot of people. This is a great time for you to personally go out and do that skill. If you need something but somebody else, keep it to small groups and go out and do it. All right, we're going to step aside real quick to give another huge shout out to our two sponsors of the podcast, Vanguard Safety Wares, made for work. Check them out at vanguardsafetyware.com. And Jumpseat Radio is a proud member of the Chief Miller Media family. Check him out on Instagram at Chief Miller and at chiefmillerapparel.com. Go get yourself some Jumpseat Radio merch. All right, back to the podcast. All right, so there's plenty of resources for you to go out and find a new skill, or heck, go ask somebody. It doesn't have to be a senior member. Go ask a junior member. Somebody's got some experience on something that you don't. Another way to find something to do to act locally is to perfect an old skill. Listen, you're not as good as you think you are. That's right. You may think that you have all these skill sets, but rust accumulates on parts that don't move. Ooh, somebody quote that. Quote that back there. Social media department. Send that out on the Twitter. You may be rusty at throwing that 24. You may be rusty at pulling the hose. You may be rusty at face piece with your glove on. Sure, seek out one skill each shift, drill night, or next time you're in a firehouse, and perfect that old skill. Use that crawl, walk, run method that we always talk about. It's we're going to go over and we're going to crawl. Then we're going to walk. Once we're done crawling and walking, we're going to crank up the volume and we're going to run. This is something I talk about with my guys. We've gone through the crawl, we've gone through the walk. Now we're ready to run. And then when you run is when you get good. When you get good, you show up on the fire scene and your dividends pay off. So when you're learning the new skill, if you're perfecting an old skill, try to find something. And here's something that's very humbling to me. Don't practice something you're good at. Practice something that you suck at. You're going to have to put your ego aside. You're going to have to put your ego aside. And you're going to have to push forward and be humble about it and say, hey, listen, this is something that you suck at. Hey, guys, let's do rope training today. I'm a horrible rope person, but I'm going to give it a go. Can you help a brother or sister out and go over the Z-drag, the 4-to-1, the block and tackle, whatever it is? Be humble and ask for help. The next way that you need to be acting globally during a global pandemic is to make sure that you're watching out for your brothers and sisters in the firehouse, especially through the process of healing after the line of duty death. This is something that really made a huge difference to me, is the number of phone calls and text messages and direct messages and Facebook messages and Instagram posts. Was make sure that you're showing people in your local area that you care. Get to know them personally. Get to know their wives or their husbands. Get to know their normals and if they're acting normal. And be that shoulder for either crying or talking and making sure that when we're acting locally that we're being responsible for each other. The fire service has always been a brotherhood and sisterhood. It's now time for us to start acting like it. I got to give a huge shout out to a bunch of people. The list is way, way too many to name that checked in on me after that night and during the recovery process. The one name I do have to mention is my good buddy Andrew Arnold from DC Engine 11, who made the 6-hour journey after burning all day and got to hang out with my Station 7 guys going to the line of duty death funeral in our Class A's. And we went out to eat some chicken wings and a few adult beverages afterwards. And man, Andrew, if you're listening, bud, I can't thank you enough for your friendship. I can't thank you enough for coming down. And man, the Engine 7 guys said we will be up there in a heartbeat to train with the Engine 11 guys any day, anytime, anywhere. Thank you. So another way to act locally but think globally is to really take care and look into your people. And then the final thing I'd like to think about, the takeaways during the global pandemic, thinking globally, acting locally, is to take your local acting and include the next company over. Include the next engine company, the next rescue company, the next ambulance company, and bring some more people into the conversation. Shameless plug at some good fire department coffee. But when you're acting locally, don't be afraid to expand. Once you've got that, you've learned a new skill or you perfect an old skill, don't be afraid to expand that out and bring in other companies, other departments. Because listen, if you're rusty on it, imagine if anybody else would be rusty on it. If you're new to it, who else could be new to it with you? So don't be afraid to be inclusive and go grab some other folks and bring them in when you're acting locally and thinking globally. All right. That's it, everyone. Man, this is going to be a short podcast. It feels great to be back on the microphone. We're working on the next round of guests on Jumpseat Radio podcast. I got to give a huge couple big takeaways here that I want to share. One was an email from a firefighter in the Pacific Northwest. So he sent me this detailed email, and he says, I know you're busy, so if you can't get through the whole thing, this whole email, it's going to be long, but I'm thankful for what you're doing with Jumpseat Radio and the Jumpseat Nation as a whole. It's been a career and life-changing. Wow. Yeah, I attributed my rekindled and rebooted passion for the fire service directly to the content you are putting out on all platforms. If you're ever in the Pacific Northwest, the beer's on me. Man, young firefighter, your email gripped at my soul. It was one of the most passionate stories. Number one, I'm super proud of you for what you did, what you have done, and what you will be doing in the fire service and in your life. Congratulations, young man. That was fan-freaking-tastic. So you guys have been asking for Jumpseat Radios. Here it is, Jumpseat Radio number 126, shutting down Jumpseat Radio. We had to shut it down to bring it back. So as we move forward through the rest of 2020, please make sure to follow us on YouTube. Check us out on all the social media platforms. You can always email your questions or topics that you'd like covered over to Ryan at ryanpennington.com. Ooh, he got his own website. Yeah, it's not quite built yet, but we're working on it. Another huge thank you. I got to give a huge thank you to the success of the Aggressively Positive webinar. I think we ended up with almost 100 folks on the Aggressively Positive webinar. That was a great interaction. It's a class that I do with no PowerPoints. It's just a discussion. The discussion was great. And to make it free for you, the Jumpseat Radio listeners, you can find that whole thing over at youtube.com/Ryan Pennington. It's the Aggressively Positive Online Event Replay. It's an hour and 17. You can't interact during it like we did during the live event, but feel free to head on over there and check that out. I'm thinking about doing some more webinars. I know everybody was hot and heavy there for a little while. I'd love to hear some of the topics you guys would like to hear, whether that's limited staffing, whether that's first due with a limited crew, whether that's personal responsibility, 3 ways to be Jumpseat Radio. What were you guys thinking that you have an area of need on for webinars? If I can't put one together, I sure as heck have a Rolodex where I can find someone to put it together. All right, enough rambling. Real quick, podcast recap. Thank you guys for being a subscriber to Jumpseat Radio. We'd like to once again thank our new sponsor, Vanguard Safety Wear. The COVID counselings will be coming back around in 2021. The new FDIC video is out. We've got Topeka, Kansas already lined up. And then we've got the other classes following there shortly behind them. So we'll be publishing the new travel schedule, hopefully in 2021. We'll get those traveling out. If you're interested in hosting a webinar for your fire department, we're still doing live webinars for either fighting fires and hoarding houses or Aggressively Positive over the interwebs, live from the Jumpseat studio. So if your department's interested in hosting one of those, reach out, Ryan at ryanpennington.com. And make sure that when you're out there today, whether you're at the drill night, whether you're at your station, think globally, act locally, lead from the front, push from the back, and man, go have some fun. Make 2020 the end of it so much better than the beginning. Thanks everyone for listening to this episode of Jumpseat Radio. See ya! Thank you for listening to Jumpseat Radio podcast number 126, shutting down Jumpseat Radio. Make sure to follow along on Instagram at Jumpseat Views. Follow us on Twitter at Jumpseat Views. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Views from the Jumpseat. Head on over to YouTube at youtube.com/Ryan Pennington. And always remember, you are part of the best brotherhood and sisterhood on the planet. Treat it that way. See you next time.